Yeah, the way that we saw how this industry likely evolve is very much like how the semiconductor networking, internet, and I've said that before.
Mhm.
There's this time where protocols come into play,
Mm.
and that protocol period, there's 3 to 5 years where you're trying to decide whether this protocol is actually going to work. And once that gets solidified, then all of a sudden an industry can be built around it.
Right.
And typically you have the protocol period, then you have an infrastructure period, and there's usually great outcomes in the infrastructure, but they're a limited number. It's when you get to commercialization. So in many cases, that's software, it's an application, it's something in the cloud. In a lot of kind of last 25 years, it's been consumer based. I think when we look at blockchain, we're going to look and say this was the B2B kind
Mhm.
of time for us. And so that commercialization area is where we really look to make investments. We think that the commercialization phase of almost every one of the technologies that have come before that have been next generation, groundbreaking, that have made the greatest outcomes for investors, it's always that mindset of a commercial individual that kind of drives that forward. So that back to your point, like, looking at founders that have a great idea of technology, but they don't have a business plan or what the business problem is, and they're trying to, say, "Hey, I made a hammer. I just need nails. Where are the nails? Like, let me go find a nail." They're probably not going to be uh, as successful as those that have like gone through a business problem set. And so I kind of struggled through that a little bit. But what I would say is that we see a lot of people that are, you know, have some gray hairs. They've been in an industry. They've seen kind of like, hey, here's all the intermediary pieces that we have to parse together to make a solution work. Sort of like figure. So like Mike
Yeah.
Cagney, Cagney looks at the HELOC business and goes, look, this business, it costs
Fragmented.
$12,000 to $17,000 to originate a HELOC. It takes 45 to 50 days. Each one of these, we have a high attrition rate. I think I could do this better. He's knocked this down now. He's knocked out 90% or almost 95% of the cost. So this goes from a $17,000 activity now down to about $1,000 or a little less. The big one is that, all of us as, potentially homeowners, we look at it and we're like, yeah, I'd like to get a HELOC, but you know how long it takes
Yeah,
to
it's a
get
pain
there?
in the butt. So when
45, 50 days. You can do it in 5 days. And I heard this whole thing from, Mike and the figure team, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try it." And I did it. I was like, "Okay, it was the least painful thing that I've done." It was super fast. When the notary comes over, if you've ever bought a house, you have this stack of papers you fill out.
Mhm.
This thing was like 4 minutes. The guy was in, out, done. I was like, "Great." Checks in the bank. I'm like, "All right, now I can start using it." It goes right into your Figure Markets account, and you can, if you wanted to, you could buy Bitcoin right away. You could